Welcome back, Focus Learners. Okay, today we're unpacking the life of a man whose mind literally engineered the modern, interconnected, digital and electrical world we live in right now. We're going to completely demystify a figure who, let's be honest, is often totally shrouded in myth. We're exploring the brilliant, complex, and frankly, sometimes tragic realities of his journey. We are, of course, talking about the one and only Nikola Tesla. So let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to picture this. Imagine stepping off a boat in New York City, and the year is 1884. You have exactly 4 cents to your name. 4 cents, a book of your own poetry, and some calculations for a flying machine stuffed in your pocket. I mean, it sounds like a Hollywood script, right? But that was the literal reality for Nikola Tesla. Yet from that absolute state of poverty, his mind would go on to build the very architecture of the 21st century. To figure out how he pulled that off, we really have to go back to his beginning, which is just famously mythic. Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in a tiny village called Smiljan, in what was then the Austrian Empire. And get this, he was born exactly at the stroke of midnight, right in the middle of a violently terrifying lightning storm. The attending midwife was so freaked out by this, she interpreted the fierce lightning as a terrible omen, warning that the infant would be a child of darkness. But in response to that really dark prophecy, Tesla's mother, Juka, was completely defiant. She shot back, "No, he will be a child of light." And honestly, Juka is a fascinating figure all on her own. She was formerly unschooled, couldn't read or write, yet she possessed this incredible eidetic memory. She could recite thousands of lines of traditional poetry and was constantly inventing these small household tools to optimize domestic labor. So it makes sense that Tesla consistently credited his mechanical genius not to his highly educated father, but directly to his mother. Section 1. The Genesis. Trauma and the Spark of Genius. Let's look at the psychological crucible of his early life, because beneath all that incredible drive was a truly devastating family tragedy. When Tesla was just 5 years old, his 12-year-old brother Dane, who the family actually considered to be the real prodigy, was killed after being thrown from a white stallion. Historical records actually suggest that 5-year-old Nikola may have inadvertently caused the accident by startling the horse with a blowgun. I mean, you can imagine the psychological weight of that. This catastrophic loss instilled in Tesla a lifelong survivor's guilt. He felt this obsessive need to achieve absolute perfection, constantly trying to fill the void his brother left. Actually, scratch that. It was more like he was desperately trying to reclaim the shattered affection of his grieving parents. And you see this childhood trauma completely bleeding into his formal education and eventual breakthrough. Tesla's journey was just fraught with physical and mental health crises. After barely surviving cholera, he made it to a Polytechnic Institute in Graz. There, he audaciously suggested replacing the highly inefficient direct current, or DC, systems with alternating current. Well, his professor just mocked him, comparing it to building a perpetual motion machine. Destitute and under immense pressure, Tesla later suffered a really severe sensory breakdown in Budapest. We're talking so severe that the ticking of a pocket watch 3 rooms away was physically deafening to him. But, and here's the turning point, it was during his recovery from this breakdown, walking in a park and reciting Goethe's Faust, that he finally visualized the AC rotating magnetic field. He literally drew the diagram for it in the dirt with a stick. Section 2. The War of the Currents. Vision versus Pragmatism. This clash in philosophies perfectly illustrates the core conflict between Tesla and his first American employer, Thomas Edison. Edison was a total pragmatist. He relied on exhaustive trial and error for his DC power, which was metered and required generating stations like every single square mile. But Tesla was a visionary. His AC power was based on brilliant theoretical calculation and could transmit over vast distances. So after Tesla completely redesigned Edison's generators, Edison just laughed off a promised $50,000 bonus as an American joke. Tesla quit right on the spot. He ended up digging ditches for $2 a day just to survive, before finally partnering with the industrialist George Westinghouse. And in response, Edison launched a ruthless smear campaign. He was out there publicly electrocuting animals just to convince the public that AC power was lethal. But despite Edison's pretty underhanded tactics, Tesla's sheer brilliance won out, kicking off a blistering pace of innovation. In 1888, he secured the seminal patents for polyphase AC power. By 1891, he invents the Tesla coil, totally laying the groundwork for all wireless technology. In 1893, he and Westinghouse famously defeated Edison by illuminating the Chicago World's Fair. And then, in 1988, he debuted the first radio-controlled boat at Madison Square Garden, utilizing early computer logic gates to prevent interference. Guys, he essentially invented the drone over a century ago. How wild is that?
Section 3, The World Wireless Dream and the Fall.
So, we now reach the climax of Tesla's Promethean arc, where his beautiful utopian vision clashes fatally with ruthless Gilded Age capitalism. In 1901, Tesla set out to build a world wireless system to broadcast information and unlimited electrical power globally. He secured a massive initial investment of $150,000 from Wall Street titan J.P. Morgan. Tesla used that cash to build the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. This was a 187-foot structure designed with a network of iron roots stretching 120 feet deep into the earth, literally designed to grip the planet's telluric or natural earth currents.
But, there was a fatal flaw in this utopian vision. Once Morgan realized that Tesla's completed system would provide unmetered, free energy, he saw a massive, direct threat. Morgan's vast financial empire relied heavily on metered commodities and copper wire monopolies. Free energy? That cannot be monopolized. So Morgan immediately and coldly cut all funding. Just like that, the project collapsed, the tower was demolished for scrap in 1917, and Tesla was cast into absolute financial destitution. And the emotional toll of this era was just immense. Compounding his financial ruin, Tesla experienced a bitter betrayal by a fellow Serbian-American scientist, Mihailo Pupin. Pupin actually testified as an expert witness for Guglielmo Marconi in the radio patent wars against Tesla. He even scandalously suggested Tesla needed a psychiatric evaluation. Ouch. This completely severed their relationship for over 30 years. It actually wasn't until 1935 that the two brilliant men shared a tearful private reconciliation right on Pupin's deathbed.
Section 4, A Mind Ahead of Time, the Man and the Machine.
Let's pivot for a second from the inventions to the highly eccentric, complex inner workings of Tesla's mind and personal life. Because to say Tesla had quirks would be a massive understatement. He developed profound obsessive-compulsive behaviors. He was a strict germaphobe who would actually calculate the exact cubic volume of his meals before eating them. He structured his entire life around the number 3. He'd walk around blocks 3 times before entering a building, and he had this incredibly intense aversion to pearls. He also remained celibate his entire life, truly believing that marriage drained inventive energy. In his later, more isolated years, he pretty much lived on a diet of warm milk and crackers, devoting all his affection to the feral pigeons of New York City. There was even one specific white pigeon he felt this deeply mystical connection to. Now, when it came to physics, his mind was equally rigid. Tesla was very much an intellectual product of 19th century classical mechanics. He believed in a strict, deterministic universe, absolute cause and effect, and a luminiferous ether filling all of space. And because of this, he vehemently rejected Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. Tesla argued that space is an absolute vacuum with no properties, so there's no way it could possibly curve. He famously, and honestly pretty stubbornly, dismissed relativity as magnificent mathematical garb, and compared it to a beggar clothed in purple whom ignorant people mistake for a king. Yet, despite his really strict mechanistic view of physics, his spiritual views were incredibly expansive. In 1896, Tesla met with the Hindu monk Swami Vivekananda, and this meeting sparked a massive fascination with Vedic concepts like prana, meaning vital energy, and akasha, meaning ether or matter. Tesla actually attempted to synthesize Western empirical science with Eastern mysticism. He genuinely believed he could mathematically prove that all matter in the universe is simply crystallized, awakened energy.
Section 5, Vindication, Legacy, and Modern Lessons. As we move into the final chapter of his story, we have to look at the mysterious end of his life and the actionable lessons we can take from his incredible mind today. Tesla died in complete isolation in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker on January 7, 1943. He was 86. Because the U.S. was deep in World War II, and Tesla had publicly claimed to have invented a particle beam weapon he called a death ray, the government was terrified. Literally the morning after he died, the FBI swept in and seized 80 trunks of his life's work. 80 trunks! The government had Dr. John G. Trump review the files, and he dismissed them as speculative. But here's the kicker. Years later, when the trunks were finally sent to Tesla's heir in Belgrade, only 60 trunks arrived. Those missing 20 trunks have fueled historical mystery and endless speculation ever since.
Tesla died completely penniless, but history has firmly, fundamentally vindicated him. Just months after his death in 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court officially overturned Marconi's fundamental patent, legally validating that Tesla was the true inventor of radio.
And in 1960, the international scientific community permanently cemented his legacy by naming the standard unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla.
So what can we, as focused learners living in a highly distracted modern world, take away from this genius? First, Tesla teaches us the supreme value of intense focus and isolation. He really believed you have to disconnect from the noise to find true originality. Second, prioritize mental visualization. Fully model your plans in your mind before wasting energy on physical trial and error. And finally, recognize that despite having his ideas stolen and his funding abruptly cut, he proved that true wealth isn't a hoardable commodity. It is an internal, renewable creative resource. Which brings us to his absolute most iconic framework for reality. He said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This isn't just a physics theory, folks. It is the ultimate systemic framework. It challenges us to look past all the solid material roadblocks in our lives and instead analyze the underlying rhythms, inputs, and energetic exchanges of the systems around us. I want to leave you with this provocative question today. Are you utilizing your own internal renewable resources, or are you letting the noise of a metered, distracted world dim your light? The next time you connect to Wi-Fi, turn on a radio, or simply flip a light switch, take a moment to remember, you are living entirely within Nikola Tesla's future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.